Good morning, everyone. I am Charlotte Watson, so I am the Supplier Engagement Manager here at Anglian Water. So I sit across two teams, research and innovation, but also commercial procurement. So my role is very external facing, so I look at working with our supply chain, who can potentially meet some of the industry challenges, but also Anglian Water's challenges. So we're going to talk to you today, myself and Anna, around what innovation looks like at Anglian Water, our priorities for AMP8, funding routes, and also we're going to kind of do a bit of a light touch on one of our Ofwat funded projects called Safe Smart Systems. So I'm going to hand over to Anna because we've got a bit of a Slido, so if everyone's got their phones ready to...
Amazing. So just while everyone's getting their phones up, I'm Anna Crisp. I am Strategic Innovation Manager working in the same team as Charlotte, so research and innovation. My role is to support the business with, our focus areas in terms of innovation, and then how we deliver that through our different frameworks. So pleasure to be here, and hopefully this will wake everybody up a little bit in terms of asking a couple of questions. We're really keen to hear from quite a different audience, actually, in terms of where you see barriers to innovation in your worlds, and then how we can solve around that. So it should be really easy in terms of signing up. I'm going to flip over to, if I can get out of here, the Slido, and we'll start the first poll. Sorry, let's start that again from number 1. We'll start the poll and I'll present, and as you're voting, we should start to see some of those results trickle through. So the first question is, where do you see the biggest innovation opportunity across today's themes? And we have a couple of options. There is an other, and unfortunately there's no free text for you to write in there, so if you do have an other, then come find us after the presentation. We'd love to hear. But in your opinion, where do we see the biggest opportunity? Nice. Can see some votes. Awesome. Nice. Yes, really warming to see that supply chain collaboration is coming out, as a key opportunity. And we know this certainly through the Safe Smart Systems project that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. It is not something that we can do alone. As an organization, Anglian has been heavily reliant on a huge partnership to bring that project to life. So absolutely, it is a great opportunity and something that we can really work on maturing. Amazing. There's one more question before I'll hand back to Charlotte. So I'll skip to the next one. Hopefully that's open for voting now. Might need to just go back and move us along. Ah, perfect. So the second question, if you're willing to answer, is what is the biggest challenge to unlocking innovation at scale? Nice. Can see some votes trickling in. We'll just give you a few more seconds. Scroll down so you can see all the answers. So in terms of choices, cultural adoption and mindset, regulatory complexity, procurement processes, data integration, talent and skills, and technology maturity. Really strong winner in terms of cultural adoption and mindset. And we see this across the board in many organizations, and especially within the sector. We are fairly risk averse, and that's for good reason. We are dealing with a food grade product, and we have to get that to customers every day. But what we do really try and encourage, certainly within research and innovation, is that kind of always exploring value, which is really, really important in terms of it's okay to fail, it's okay to test and not scale. But the most important thing, I think it's a kind of a takeaway this week for me, is if you're not winning, then you're learning. And so we're very much trying to understand how we capture those lessons and move forward with those key innovation priority areas that we have. So thank you so much. There will be another couple of questions towards the end of the presentation, so do just keep your phones handy. But yeah, really appreciate the interaction. I'll hand back to Charlotte just to take you through research and innovation.
Put on slideshow. That's okay. Right, so research and innovation team. I'm sure you've all read our AMP8 business plan cover to cover, but for those of you who haven't, innovation is a golden thread throughout. We see it in, like Anna said, our always exploring value. So the innovation team is there to kind of be the custodians of that always exploring kind of mindset. Our vision for that team is to guide the creation of tomorrow's advancements today, and we do that by having access to networks, platforms, processes, and so our people, partners and value chain can innovate, learn at scale. So our team, this is quite a new team with the addition of circular economy. So we're kind of broken up into 4 key areas. So we've got research and insights. So that is very much around our academic partnerships, so how we engage with universities and look at PhDs and masters. Then we've got Shop Window, which Anna leads. So that's very much around our innovation trials, right from ideation through to adopting and scale. If successful, we've got our PMO function, so our project controls around some of our funded projects, and then we've also got circular economy. So a lot of our team, we do a lot of activities to kind of support our innovation processes, so that's around technology scouting, it could be around academic partnerships, so working with the likes of UCWIR to identify kind of research projects with PhD students. I do a lot of supplier management and that external facing supplier engagement with kind of suppliers from TRL 2-3 up to getting them to product ready, kind of market ready services. And then going into kind of our focus areas for AMP8, so historically, certainly for the latter part of AMP7, we've been very open and broad with our innovation approach. So going into AMP8 or into AMP8 now, we're kind of going through a process at the moment around what our new innovation strategy looks like, and that's going to be much more focused, challenge-led, which is obviously driven by some of our operational performance drivers and reducing risk across the business, but also having a mind on looking at commercial opportunities with supply chain as well, and also looking at new revenue streams. So to call out some of our kind of focus areas for innovation and operational priorities, appreciate these are really, really high level, but that's kind of where our team come in also to kind of drill down those high level priorities into more challenge opportunities for supply chain to support. So supply interruption, pollution mitigation and management, process emissions, managing emerging contaminants, PFAS, that sort of thing. So we kind of understand as a business that we know that we can't always do this alone. So we do a lot of like supplier engagement and external facing engagement with our suppliers. We do that through 3 different routes. So we've got our water innovation networks, that's very regional focus, so very specific to Anglian water challenges. And then we have the likes of Spring, who were born from the sector's efforts to accelerate innovation across the sector. And we utilise Spring for water company engagement, but also their brokerage service around suppliers. And then we have WaterStart, who are actually internationally based. They're based in Las Vegas, and we've recently utilised their kind of network and platform around our drought management plan. So we were looking at extreme actions and building that into our drought management plan going forward. But just to bring this to life a bit more, we had a recent project with working with colleagues in the At One Alliance, and they were looking at a project around improving flow to one of our water treatment works. And what they were seeing was a problem with invasive zebra mussels in one of the pipes, and they found that they were encrusted down the drawer off of the pipe. And what we were able to do was utilise this kind of platform and these networks to not only seek guidance from other water companies who had also had similar challenges and also trialled the same kind of technology that we've trialled and also not had the success with that technology. So it's kind of reinforcing it's okay to fail, and it's okay to kind of reach out to your networks and understand where they've also failed, but also bring it back internally, which we have done to our solutions team to take something forward for the future. So innovation, it's not free. We have to seek funding from the likes of Ofwat Innovation Fund. So for those of you that don't know, in AMP7, Ofwat announced a £200 million innovation fund, which we were able to come up with innovation projects, and we led on 9 projects totalling over £23 million. And then going into AMP8, that fund has actually now doubled. So it's £400 million now, and we're currently in a process of round 6 submissions. So there's a huge list of projects here. We know we won't get funding for all of them, but it's totaling nearly £50 million at the moment. So Anna and the team are going through a process at the moment of submitting those, and hopefully we'll see some funding coming through to take some of those forward. And we actually spoke with the Ofwat Innovation team yesterday, which is quite timely, and we were talking to them about adopting and scaling and the challenges that we see in the industry for not just us as water companies but supply chain, and they're hearing those messages, and they're actually taking forward some of those things around the adoption to scale. So they're bringing in 3 new funding streams this AMP. So over the next 6 to 9 months, we're going to see 3 new ones. One around it's called Water Innovation Mission, which is strategic challenges for the water industry. So water industry colleagues come together around one specific challenge. And then there's an implementation fund, which will be around separate business cases to adopting and scaling those Ofwat innovation funded trials that didn't get to adoption and scale opportunity. And then the third one is cross-sector funding, or cross-sector program, and that looks at how we can collaborate with other industries. So I think low-carbon concrete is probably a really good example of that, how we can collaborate with other industries in innovation opportunities. So I think that segues really nicely onto Safe Smart Systems. Thank you.
Thank you. So as Charlotte has just described, the Ofwat Innovation Fund has really been a catalyst to not only the team but to the business in terms of really expanding our ambition of what we want to do and what we want to test and demonstrate. And so Safe Smart Systems is a project that's going on 4 years old now. It was part of the first round of bidding under the Ofwat Innovation Fund, and we were successful in securing £7.5 million to essentially live out a vision in terms of autonomous water networks and taking it further in that would be driven by a controlling mind, which is an AI decision engine. So really pushing the boundaries in terms of autonomous networks driven through AI capability. As you can see, this project was centered around Ely. Not sure if anybody's from the Ely patch, but you wouldn't know it, that there's this project going on there, because it is all below ground and it is also in the back offices. However, sizable investment has been made into this, what we call an incubator region. It's where we are testing what these innovations bring us in the form of value. It's a great area in terms of the challenges that it's experienced in the past. There's been a number of water quality failures. It's fairly stressed in terms of demand, and that's through the size of those towers. There's 9 water towers. Appreciate the region we're looking at is the light blue. The purple is the water recycling element to what is our shop window. So Safe Smart Systems encompasses these kind of these assets and geographies. So in terms of the sensoring in the area, we have a number of different pressure and flow monitors, which is where we started. This wasn't about bringing brand new technology to the area, it was about using existing. However, we have brought enhancements to site in the form of edge devices. So at Isleham Treatment Works, we now have a functioning edge processing device, which is ultimately a replacement for your outstation. It can handle much greater volumes of data, and it can already start to do on-site processing of that data and package it and ship that to our operational technology data lake. We also installed condition monitors across all our pump stations. So there is a good coverage of live, or at least near to live data sitting in that region. So what was this all for? I mentioned that the ambition was to demonstrate an autonomous network, one which was powered by AI. If you're not familiar with the Smart Water Networks Forum, or SWAN, I would highly recommend you jump on their webpage. They have some really great materials and insights into how do you start to build towards a smart system, and how they break down the ambition, or at least almost what becomes your program plan, is by these different layers. And so the first layer is very much your physical assets. What are you working with? What pipes, what pumps, what sensors do you have? And where do you want to get to with those physical assets? Do they need additional sensoring? Do you need to improve the data quality around them? Or at least what they're feeding in terms of insights. The next layer is around sensing and control. So as I said, is there anything additional that you'd like to layer onto your physical asset base? And then as you sort of work your way up, you can see you're moving further away from the physical geography and more into our data and digital environment. So collection and communication, how do you want to package data, and how do you want to send it, in what granularity, and in what time series do you need that? You ultimately then move to data management and display, and this is where everybody gets really excited, because it's the analytics, and it's the chance to actually see in terms of what is happening on the ground. And finally, you can get into data fusion and analysis, and this is where things like system-based AI decisions can come in. And so Ely, that area that I showed you, we have systematically worked through each one of these layers in terms of building capability and maturing capability in each one of these. So just to break down those capabilities a little bit further, we really wanted to, I guess, work across a cycle of observing, inferring, deciding, and then acting. And in terms of the description around these, when we talk about observing, it's very much the capability we wanted to improve was the visibility and the access to insights through near real-time performance monitoring. We needed to get better data quality and access from those sensors. There's a huge amount of work done to bring pressure and flow data together. And you really want to add contextualization around that data as well. So it's great knowing that the flow is X meters per second, but unless you have the context around that flow meter, it is a bit random. And then obviously ensuring that the feedback to our master data sources is in place, should we make any changes. If we move along to the right, we then want to take that data and start to infer. And this is really around this predictive capability. So knowing what we know, what could we predict going forward? And this is being able to make connections between different data sets, bring those together, as I said, and then improve the accuracy and confidence of what you're inferring. And then we move on to making a decision. So ultimately, if we can infer that there's something happening on the network, we would then need to build towards what decision and what standardized decisions can you take off the back of that insight. And so this is where we really wanted to bring together a kind of dynamic system optimization sort of suite of, it's called a scenario library, a suite of scenarios that you could then apply to what you have just inferred. We wanted to increase the speed of decision making. We know that in our TAC Ops room, there's just a number of different platforms and a number of different manual processes that have to be achieved to get to a decision on how to respond to a problem on the network. And we wanted to speed that up and in some ways automate it. And obviously increasing sort of that proactive decision making. So where can we start to take decisions without the need for manual intervention? And then finally to act, so this is where we still believe there is the necessity to send people out and to make good whatever the issue might have been on the network. But we really want to bring back the insights as to what was found during that act and feed that back into your system as a learning piece going forward. So the system is continuously learning based on what you are doing out in the field. So to bring this all to life, and this has been tested in a shadow environment, I guess. We're not in a live OT space at the moment for good reason. We don't want to upset any customers, but effectively we have managed to demonstrate that our operations can be managed in a safe, smart way. So the first test was to understand whether our decision engine could pick up an anomaly on the network, and whether this could be done faster than current methodology. So if you're looking on the far left, there is the anomaly graph, and what was picked up by our decision engine was a 12-hour alert to a potential I2S incident. And this was 12 hours sooner than what would have been an alerted burst. So this is already giving us that proactive ability to start to gather ourselves, send out what we need to on site, and was really, really sort of confidence boosting, knowing that through I guess the bringing together of different data sets and the application of machine learning, that you can actually get to greater levels of understanding in terms of anomalies and issues on the network before they happen. We then contextualize that anomaly, so that's where I said you really want to bring together different data sets to be able to hone in on where that issue is, and that's the next image onto the right. We then provided this kind of contextual and decision-making library, so that's for operators ultimately to understand what actions they could take. And finally then, and this is where Safe Smart Systems, I suppose, gets quite exciting, is it can then recommend actions in terms of what you should take. And in the area, alongside all the sensoring, we have installed 3S actuator valves that can be remotely controlled. And so ultimately, this whole pipeline could be enacted without any requirement for human intervention, other than just to okay the decisions that it's making. And so piecing together each of these, we have seen that it is possible, and we're really excited, I guess, in the opportunity that this presents. This particular case was very centered around I2S, so it was looking for potential for a burst. The concept, or at least the principles, can be applied to any rising issue, and whether that be on water or water recycling networks. Just in terms of the Ofwat Innovation Fund, we are not only trying to test this on behalf of Anglian and demonstrate the value for Anglian, we're also trying to bring together a partnership and make the findings of this project accessible to all water companies across the UK. And so alongside the project, we've been packaging up a playbook, which will be available and published in the new year. And this really encompasses everything that we've done in a way that can be picked up, and other companies, other supply chain partners can understand what were the components, what were the lessons, how was the logic built around these different products. Yes, so reach out if you'd like access to that playbook. Just lastly, I guess in terms of, and the reason why we do innovation, it's to set course in terms of our strategy and really influence where we should be going as a company. And you'll see this quote from Dave Martin on the left, my right. It really speaks to where we're feeding in the learnings around what we've uncovered in Ely and how that's starting to shape our digital strategy. We have seen sizable barriers in terms of bringing IT and OT data together, and those two different infrastructures are managed in very different ways, and there's a lot of work to be done in terms of how we understand. Rightly so, they were air-gapped as data lakes, but how do we start to bring that together in a safe way to be able to unlock things like machine learning and the opportunities that automation can present. Just in terms of Safe Smart Systems, the Ofwat project is due to finish in April next year. However, this isn't really the end. It's sort of the beginning of then what more we would want to do. And as I mentioned, we were very much working in the clean water networks side of the business. I think there's a lot of learnings we could transfer across to waste or water recycling, and ultimately also expand on the system. As I said, this was I2S, but you could start to look at other potential anomalies and how you would apply the same principles and logic.
Thank you for joining this PUM Centre webinar. We'll be releasing essential industry content regularly throughout 2026. Visit the training page at pumcentre.com.